Welcome everybody to our February webinar. My name is Jennifer Carter. For those of you that do not know who I am, I'm the COO here, as well as the broker for Ardent Residential. I've been doing community association management in Georgia now for over 20 years. And today's webinar is titled Making Sure Your Amenities and Members Are Ready for Summertime. What do you need to do to make sure your facilities are ready for use and owners are prepared for their own lot maintenance responsibilities as well? It's hard to believe that it is almost that time of year. I mean, we are in February right now, and y'all can hear my puppy. We are in February, and it's already past Valentine's Day, and before we know it, it's going to be March and April and May, and pools are going to be opening. So we need to, start preparing for that time of year now. Now is the time to start planning. We don't want to wait until April or May to start planning for the pool season and opening of other amenities. So if you guys can just bear with me 1 second. So anyways, so now is the time to get prepared to start planning for all these things. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. So of course, again, I've already explained that this is our webinar, making sure your amenities and members are ready for summer. Okay, I always want to read a disclaimer about this, especially this webinar in particular. Today's webinar is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as legal advice or counsel. You should review your community association's governing documents for more specific detail related to your association's specific amenities process, or consult with your association's manager or attorney. Okay, associations are not all the same, and the legal framework governing associations varies from state to state. I want to make mention, I had a lot of people reaching out asking if I was going to discuss COVID-19 policies and procedures and protocols during this call. And I will not be providing any COVID-19 recommendations, protocols, procedures, as these do vary from state to state, and Ardent Residential is in multiple states. We'd be here all day long talking about the regulations and different municipalities. I can't say that word. Different counties, states, cities, everybody's going to have different types of requirements. Okay. So we will not be talking about COVID-19 protocols here during this session. Please check your local municipalities for any regulations or executive orders related to your community's amenity areas and COVID-19. Okay. This is our agenda. These are things we're going to talk about today. What are different types of common areas, different types of amenity areas that association could be responsible for? Pool opening checklist. This is going to be a big one. What are all the things that we need to do in order to get our pool open? What are some other common area checklist items that we might want to review as we approach springtime? Again, I just can't believe that we are almost there. Before you know it, it's going to be 4th of July. I'm just telling you guys, okay? Landscaping, common elements regarding landscaping, what we need to start preparing for and talking with our landscaping providers about regarding landscaping and common elements. And then restricting use of common areas for delinquent owners, right? This is a big one. I don't think this is used as much as it should be used for community associations. We'll talk about that during this session. Spring reminders, just really just some things that we should be communicating to our members. Okay, we want to make sure we're communicating to our members what the expectations are, right? It's a lot easier to get your membership to voluntarily come into compliance versus having to stronghand them to do it. Okay, everybody, it's a win-win situation when we can just provide education and information that's needed to keep our associations good, with good covenant enforcement. Good. We want to protect and enhance those property values. That's the whole purpose of it. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Okay, let's just talk about different types of common areas. Okay. First of all, most community associations have an entrance, right? Somewhere where you drive into the neighborhood. And it's made up of sometimes a sign, maybe there's two signs, maybe you have some fancy gazebos, there's landscaping there, there's trees along the frontage of the road, there could be sidewalks there, there could be irrigation, lighting, all this stuff. These things could be occurring at the entrance. And if you drive around and you pay enough attention to communities like I do, you'll start to see that they're all starting to look a little run down. And that's very normal for this time of year because, we're kind of coming out of winter very soon, and we're going into spring. And if you are in Georgia, you would have experienced what I call fake spring. This past Saturday, we had beautiful weather on Friday and Saturday, like close to 70 degrees. But there are things that are going to start looking as we get more and more into spring. Things are going to start to look a little more sad. They're going to look like they need some attention. They need some love. And again, the entrance is a big part of your community. It's the first thing that people see when they come into it, right? They say you don't ever have a second chance to make a first impression, and that entrance is a first impression. So, do we need to pressure wash the entrance sign? Does it need to be repainted? Do we maybe need some upgraded design standards for our entrance? Like maybe we need to just replace all the plants and trees there. Again, it's going to obviously be determined on what you have in your budget to do those things. But, do we need some extra lighting? Is the lighting working? Is the irrigation working? Do the trees along the frontage of the road, do they need to be trimmed back? So you got your entrance. And then, of course, you can have a pool, tennis courts, a pool house and bathrooms that might go with the pool. You might have a clubhouse. You could have a guest suite. We have one community that has a lodge, if you will, and inside the lodge there are several guest rental suites that owners can rent out to their family when they come into town. We have dog parks, we have playgrounds and basketball courts, walking trails, retention ponds, lots of stuff you can have in your community, right? And we're going to talk about some of these in a little bit more detail as we go along, as we go through this webinar. Okay, pool opening checklist. This is a big one. We're probably going to spend more of our time here talking about this topic because it's important. From a management company and a portfolio manager's perspective, here's some high-level items that you can think about as it relates to getting ready for your pool, right? At this point, your pool vendors will probably start reaching out to schedule removal of the pool covers. Sometimes they like to wait until maybe the last freeze has happened to de-winterize anything, like if there's anything that had to be winterized. But we're getting there. I think we're coming close to the end of that time. So de-winterizing any of the pool bathrooms or any of the actual pump rooms, sometimes they have to be winterized. It just depends. Start getting your pool furniture out. See what you got left. See what's broken or damaged, At this point, if you want to get your pool furniture restrapped, which is what a lot of people do with their pool furniture, it's just a very cost-efficient way to upgrade your furniture without having to purchase brand new furniture. Now is the time to get those quotes and get that done. If you wait another month, you're going to wait too long. Purchasing pool furniture right now is very difficult, okay? And remember, your managers are not mind readers. So you go to your manager and you say, we want all new pool furniture. Well, we don't know, again, your manager can't read your mind. What do you have in mind? Provide examples of what you're looking for and make sure you're providing them with a budget. Okay. And a lot of people don't realize how expensive pool furniture is. Okay. You can get the cheaper stuff like from Costco or, maybe Home Depot, but it's not going to last you very long. You really want to have commercial grade type of equipment, pool furniture on your pool deck, right? That's going to last several years. But now's the time. And remember, there's a lot of shortages. So you may not get, even now, if you order special umbrellas, they may not get here in time. So, just keep that in mind. Talked about getting the pool cover off. That should be happening soon. We talked about, pressure washing your pool deck. That's a big one. Now's the time to start thinking about when you want to get your pool deck pressure washed. We already talked about de-winterizing of the pool bathrooms and the pump room. Getting your janitors back on the schedule. Okay. Somebody should be contacting your janitors to find out when they'll start coming back. Maybe maybe the janitors only work during the summer months. Maybe it's just May through September that they work. You may want to start calling them now to start have them come do a nice cleaning in April. Right before the pool opens, they can do a once nice clean over, and then they're coming back every so often to clean the bathrooms. Pool phone. Okay, this is a big one. This is a big one for me. Most counties, I can't speak for all of them, but most counties will not pass your pool permit inspection if your phone line does not work. So now is the time to check it and test it and do a test run and call 911 to see if it works. And make sure when you call 911 to test the line that you actually ask them what location they have in their system. Okay, I've had instances before where we've had to call 911 from a pool and 911 had a different address in the system and they went to a wrong location. So check those addresses, make sure that 911 has the right address. Of course, when you call 911, you can say, hey, this isn't an emergency. I'm testing our phone line. I want to make sure it's working. Want to check the location that you've got on file there, in the event of an emergency. They're happy to help you. I've done it many, many times. Okay. But that's the last thing you want is your pool permit not passing because your phone's not working. Okay. That's silly. That's a very silly thing to happen. So make sure your pool phone is working. Sometimes if it's not working, it could be a process where you have to contact AT&T or Comcast or God knows how long it will take them to come out and fix it, right? So, always prepare for the unexpected, okay? Get your pool permit paid. You need to pay your permit fee if you are required to have a permit fee. I know there are some counties in Georgia that do not require a pool permit. So I know Forsyth County, for example, in Georgia is one of those. But again, majority though, I'd say 98% require a permit fee. So make sure you're paying that pool permit fee. Okay. If you are in Fulton County in Atlanta, Georgia, if you are a community association manager in Fulton County, Georgia, listen to me very carefully. You want to hand deliver that Fulton County check, pool permit, and application. Fulton County requires a new application every single year, and they are notorious for not receiving the check. Right. And then they slap you with a $500 late fee, something crazy. So I know at Ardent, we hand deliver the managers that we do full service for. We do hand deliver the Fulton County permits with the checks to make sure that they are paid on time and we get receipts for them. Signage. So, every county has different signage requirements. And these can change from year to year, right? And there's all kinds of very strict regulations on the size and the font used and, what it must say. So make sure you're checking with the county to make sure there aren't any changes with any signage that you might have, bathing load or there are other signage requirements that have to be on separate signs, like, right, you have to have your pool rules, and then there are other signs like no diving or swim at your own risk. Like there are certain signs that have to be on their own sign, but again, that's the county regulation. So you'll want to check with a pool vendor. Your pool vendor is typically going to know what the signage requirements is for your county. Then you want to schedule your pool inspection, right? And schedule this ahead of time. Get with your pool vendor and make sure you're scheduling this ahead of time and not waiting till the last minute. Okay. Shoot, I didn't mean to do that. Then there's the communication to the membership, right? We want to communicate that the pool is now opening, when it's opening, what the pool rules are, what will happen if you break the pool rules. So, again, it's very important to make sure the membership knows what's going on. Communicate with them. Make sure they understand what the pool rules are, and what to do if they have any questions about it. We're going to talk about restricting use of pool and other common areas here coming up on another slide. So let's just talk about briefly some other common areas, right? We kind of mentioned them in the beginning, right? The different types of common areas, but let's take example of the tennis courts. Does the fencing around the tennis court, the mesh, does it need to be replaced? Do we need to retie anything with zip ties? Do we need to fix any fencing that comes apart, right? That just kind of tends to happen in the winter and with wind and things like that. Does it need to be pressure washed? You know, a lot of times your pool deck and your tennis court need to be pressure washed every year. They just get dirty, right? Are there cracks in the tennis courts? Do we need to have them addressed? Let's talk. Does the lighting at the tennis court work? Is the lighting coming on? Usually a lot of the lighting at the tennis courts are on timers. So are the timers working? Clubhouse, does it need to be pressure washed on the outside? What about a full thorough interior cleaning? Like maybe you guys haven't rented out your clubhouse or it hasn't been used in 6 months. Does it need a good once over clean, right? Do we want to talk about maybe trying to create some additional revenue and rent our clubhouse out? Maybe we need to start doing that again. Playgrounds and basketball courts. Again, do those need to be pressure washed? Are there any repairs needed on your playground? Does the tennis court net, does the basketball court net need to be replaced? Does fresh ground cover, there's a very special ground cover that gets put down for playgrounds. It's more of a rubbery material. It's like a specialized ground cover that you put down for playground equipment, and it has to be so many inches deep. So in order for it to meet regulations, so do we need to put fresh playground ground cover down? What do my retention ponds look like? Okay, most people don't know this. We bring on a lot of communities that start with Ardent, and their retention ponds have not been cleaned in years. Okay, that's just a lawsuit waiting to happen. Not to mention, you could be violating county code if the county inspectors were ever to come out. But you've got to clean out retention ponds at least once a year. They need to be cleaned out. I always recommend twice a year, but minimum once a year, your retention ponds need to be cleaned out. And if you don't do it, you're going to end up shooting yourself in the foot. If you wait, the longer you wait, the more expensive it's going to be. So just build that line item into your budget. Get your retention pond cleaned at least once a year. Okay. Do the walking trails, like if we have walking trails, do they need to be cleaned up? Do they need any sprucing up of anything? So again, go around, make a list of your amenity areas and start to ask yourself, if I was a brand new homeowner looking to purchase a home in this community, what would I be looking at? What would I be paying attention to? What would I see as I come in and I'm looking to buy a house in this community? What is it that I'm seeing? What do I see as I'm driving through the community and I'm looking at all the wonderful common areas? What are my dues going to be paying for, right? The other thing y'all need to keep in mind is as we go into the spring, which is again right around the corner, we've got to think about the landscaper and their contracted services with the association. You should be getting your quotes now for your spring color and your ground cover, your new ground cover for pine straw or mulch. And if you're a town-owned community or condominium, you're going to have that go everywhere. That's going to go out throughout your whole community. That's a big job to do. It's a big line item in your budget, right? For fresh ground cover. If you're just a single family home community, you might just have the entrance and your common areas, you know, around your tennis courts, around your playgrounds, around your basketball court, around the pool area. But be getting those quotes now for the fresh ground cover. April's a great time to get all that done, right? After the freeze, you want to get your spring color installed after that last freeze. But before you get fresh color installed for the spring, you want to make sure your irrigation's working, right? So go ahead and ask them to start turning dewinterizing your irrigation systems and doing a startup. They call it an irrigation startup. They run the irrigation to make sure there aren't any issues. And I'm telling you, you should go ahead and expect some irrigation repairs. It's very, very common. So don't be alarmed if you're getting quotes after the fact of irrigation repairs that are needed after they've turned on the irrigation and dewinterized it for the springtime. Okay, let's talk about this. Restricting use of common areas with delinquent owners, okay? If your governing documents allow for this, you should restrict any use to common areas as much as you can if people are delinquent. You have a fiduciary responsibility as a board member, if you're a board member here tonight, to collect the dues from everyone, not just some, not just half, not just 90% of the neighborhood, but 100% of the neighborhood. You have a fiduciary responsibility as a board member to do everything you can within your power to collect on past due accounts, okay? So one of the greatest things, if you have a pool or a tennis court, let's just take those for example, that are with a fob system, Okay, they have a fob. It is very easy and it's a very efficient way to turn off their fob manually. We can turn off that fob and we can restrict access from that owner because they are delinquent. And I don't see boards do this as much as they should. One of our checklist items is to go and turn off fobs for delinquent owners because they need to be paying. Most governing documents with amenities that have amenities do have language in them. Again, you want to check, but most governing documents do state that the board has the right to suspend the use of common areas for anybody that is delinquent. So you should absolutely do this. And it does get people to pay. I had one community last spring that when they opened their pool, they had about $35,000 in delinquencies. And by the time the 4th of July came around, they had no delinquencies at all. Everybody had paid in full. So it's just a great tool to get people to come into compliance. Now, if your community has a 3 or 4 digit code, like I've seen a lot of communities have that you go up and you just punch the code in to get into the pool, then you just need to assume that everyone has the code. Okay. It's not even just the homeowners that have access, the delinquent homeowners, but I guarantee you other people that don't even live in the community have access to that code and they're using your pool and you probably don't know it. So it is a very good investment. If you are a community association right now and you are watching this video, if I were you, 1000%, I would spend the money and get a control access system for at least your pool and your tennis courts. Okay. Not only that, but there's a lot of security. I wouldn't say security is the wrong word, but there's a lot of times when you want to know who was at the pool at a certain time. Maybe there was an incident that happened at the pool and you want to know who came in and out of the pool between hours of, on Thursday between 1 and 3 o'clock. You can go into the system with a control access system and see who came into the pool during that time frame. Okay. We've solved a lot of mysteries by using that and being able to have that system in place where we can go online and look to see who was accessing the pool so we can figure out what happened, whatever incident was happening, we could figure out what was going on. So if you only have a digit code, and a key system is kind of the same way. It's very outdated. I know a lot of communities that use a key system. They rotate their keys out every 2 or 3 years. So they have 3 batches of keys. They're all different keys. And every year or every 2 years, they rotate them out and people have to come pick up their new key. It's just a lot of work and it's just not necessary. And if you can afford it, you're probably talking about $5,000 for a new control access system, give or take. But again, get a quote. Now's the time to do it. And the last thing I just want to kind of cover here during this webinar is just some spring reminders. Okay. This is so important, right? I've preached about this in other webinars and I talk about it a lot with new clients that are looking to come to Ardent. Covenant, you move into a community association because it's a covenant protected community, meaning that you have these covenants and conditions and restrictions, your CCRs, which tell us what we can and can't do. And the reason that we want to move into this community is because these CCRs, these covenants, conditions, and restrictions are going to protect and enhance my property values. Okay, protect and enhance my property values. That's why as a management company, we do covenant enforcement. Okay, I guarantee you self-managed communities out there aren't doing a whole lot of covenant enforcement because they just don't have the systems in place to do it efficiently. So a lot of times when a board hires a management company, it's one of the main reasons outside of the financial aspect and the administrative aspect and the vendor management aspect, but it's for the covenant enforcement piece to actually send out violation letters to those that are out of compliance. Okay. Boards not only have a responsibility to collect on past due accounts, but boards have a fiduciary responsibility to enforce the covenants, to ensure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing on their lot. They're taking care of their lot. It's not fair if you are a homeowner and, most their homes are their biggest investment. Okay. For most Americans. And so if you have one homeowner taking care of their lot and investing their money and putting their money back into their home, taking care of their yard, they have a weed treatment plan that they pay for every single month. They have pest control coming. They're having their house pressure washed. They're having it painted every 5 to 7 years. They're taking care of their mailbox. You can tell the homeowners that take pride in their homes. Okay, if you drive through any community, you can point out the homes where people are really taking care of the homes, and you can easily, even more so, point out the ones that are not taking care of their homes. Okay, so I want to say this: it's easier to get an owner to voluntarily come into compliance. In fact, I've got a great blog coming out this week. If you guys aren't on our mailing list, please email info@myardent.com. Info@myardent.com if you want to be put on our mailing list, so that you can start getting my blogs. But we have a blog coming out this Friday about the covenant enforcement piece and getting people to comply voluntarily. You want to get your membership to buy in to the board's plan, right? So be on the lookout for that blog. But before we start going crazy, if you guys have not been doing covenant enforcement in a while, you need to start letting your membership know that it's about to start happening. Don't just start sending out letters like crazy. Make sure that you're being thoughtful about the process and communicating what an inspection is, why we do the inspection, what is the importance of it. People want to understand the why. Sending them out a letter explaining to them what all of this is and listing out all the items that they'll be looking for, right? And asking them to please proactively take action so that you don't have to get a violation letter, right? If you don't come into compliance, you don't take care of your home, you're going to start getting violation letters and possible fining, or in some cases, we may come onto your property and make the repair or do the whatever for you and bill you back for it. Okay, that's called the abatement, the self-help method. Okay, so again, communication with your membership. Start planning for that now, because again, before you know it, we're going to be driving through neighborhoods and we're going to start seeing weeds popping up everywhere. And that's just one of my biggest pet peeves: weeds, weeds, weeds. And a lot of people say, no, it's grass. That's not grass. If you see weed, if you see all these little green spouts coming out in March, that is not your grass coming in. That is your weeds coming in. So now's the time to start thinking about communicating with your membership what the expectations are. And again, why we do this. And again, like I've already said, it's all about protecting and enhancing your property values. So that concludes my webinar. I want to thank you guys all for joining me. This will also be posted on our website. Feel free to share that with anybody that you might know that might be interested in watching this webinar. And I hope that you guys all have a wonderful rest of your week. Take care.